just to, because we skipped a week, and last week we talked about Diana. Thank God, thank God she's buried, or else the thing would go on and on. It has no safe, has no end to it, So. But actually, we really have to thank Diana in many ways. Because every once in a while, we get deluded about the righteousness of the world. We get deluded about it. We make mistakes. We think there's something there. We think they make sense. You know what I'm saying? We think there's something there. They make sense, right? That they're righteous, they're holy, they're saints, whatever it is. And the Rosh Hashanah says, well, every once in a while the Rosh Hashanah, allows an event to happen that clearly shows us the incredible stupidity of mankind, and how really debased mankind really is, what their level of sainthood is, and so on. I mean, here's a woman, Diana and so on, who in essence was an adulteress. She had affairs, and it was many affairs, and they were always publicized and so on and so forth. She was on the front page. In essence, that's what she was. What's the Jewish view of an adulteress? It's terrible. Chayav Misa. I mean, you talk about the Soita. There's a halach of Soita, a suspected adulteress. And there's a whole concept of what? You have to drink, that God allows His name to be erased, and then you take the Sav. What?
England. She was supposed to be the queen.
Yeah. And we take a look at who these people are. These people are supposed to be the elite, right? The models of civilization of England. I mean, England is the summit of civilization. Yeah. British decor and behavior and so on. The gentlemen and so on and so forth. And you take a look, who in the world do they respect? Do they hold to be so high?
Really, they're the last monarchy.
What was that?
They're the last monarchy.
No, there are other monarchies. They're not as big. There's Luxembourg has one, and Denmark has a king, and Sweden. Yeah, they're all small because the countries are nothing.
Small, it's nothing. This is like.
Yeah, this is the greatest and the last of the great.
Back 1,000 years.
Yeah, the last of the great monarchies. Do you ever, there's a lot to talk about, but you look at who's the yichus of these people. William the Conqueror goes back to 1066. There's a war there and so on. And the Saxons, the Normans took over the English and so on and so on. These guys were butchers. They were butchers. By and large, if you ever read a history of their butchers and their murderers and their cruel despots and so on, and these are the guys that are the yichus. The British royalty goes back to who? All the way back, the House of Windsor and the House of Tudor and the House of Stuart and all these houses. Where do they all come from? They all come from butchers and cruel people. Where did the Jews come from? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. You take a look at who our ancestors are and what the Chumash says. Tzaddikim, you see that Tzidkus. Even if somebody doesn't know who Avram Avinu is, you take a look at the Chumash, the hospitality, the Tzidkus of these people are awesome. It's hard to believe that these people lived in a time when the world was barbaric, filled with zimor and hashchasa, corruption, and all kinds of licentiousness and so on. How in the world do you have these three kinds of people that shine out? Then you take a look at who is the yichus of these people, and you realize what kind of a comparison is this? I always get a kick out of the fact, many years ago there was a TV serial. What's it called? It was a yichus of the Schwarzes. What was that called? He wrote about the.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Who? Roots.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Alex Haley. Yeah, he died. Alex Haley. But yeah, Roots. So I had read the book, or actually the Reader's Digest book of it. It's a shortened version and so on. But one thing struck out. It was interesting. I mean, you see the development, the then it started a whole genealogy craze. Everyone wanted to know their roots. And the next 10 years, everybody was into genealogy. Fine. But I always found it fascinating, and I said, what the book shows you clearly What's the yichus? Means the genealogy. Who are the forebears of these people? Some guy called Kunta Kinti, if I even remember his name. You know, it's some guy Kunta Kinti, whatever the guy's name was, in Africa. What was he? Was half of him was barbarian? I mean, this is the yichus, the great yichus. And the world is they're spoiled, the roots and so on and so forth. And you take a look at the roots of the Jewish people, is awesome compared to this. Awesome. You talk about not only the Ovos, the tribes, you talk about Moshe Rabbeinu and Moses, as they would call him, right? Aaron, Shmuel Hanovi, the prophets. This is the forebears of Klal Yisrael. The same thing, Diana. Who are our forebears? Most of these people are what? They're the uncivilized people that tremendously took advantage of their subjects and so on and so forth. Butchers and all this kind of stuff. If you ever read British history and so on, this is the great yichus. But specifically on Diana, she's an adulteress that committed adultery who knows how many times. And the whole world read about it, clearly the account. This is a saint? What kind of saint is this? Because she did some tzedakahs? Fine. Everybody gives tzedakah. So why is she greater? People do tzedakah. And I was listening to radio, one guy said a very good statement. I don't get into Diana, but I just want to finish off and just bury the subject and so on. But one guy said very good, on the radio. I turned it on, all of a sudden this guy said a very good thought. He says, who's this Diana? I'm surprised he said it, because they would have stoned him on, the guy said it on the radio. He says, who's Diana? He says, everything you hear about Diana, you never hear a word from her. You don't hear a word. He wanted to compare it to Mother Teresa. He quoted what she said, and what she said was chesed. I mean, the woman was a tremendous Baal chesed. She was one of Hasidim Soilam. It's unfortunate she was Catholic. She's in the wrong religion, but she's no question that she was one of Hasidim Soilam, Mother Teresa. Hasidim Soilam, one of the righteous of the nations. Just as she was caught up in the wrong religion, and so on. So he said, what did she say? You never hear any sound bits from Diana. No wise statements, nothing profound, nothing great and noble. All you saw was associated with the charities, because there was nothing there. She was a Baltaiva, right? She was immoral, and she ran around. And she was very materialistic. A house here and a house there. What was this woman? A spiritual woman? She had no shaykhs of spirituality. Anyway, that's what he said. I thought it was a very interesting comment. So much for Diana. That's it. But for us, it's very important. We see, when you say in the morning, Shelo Yisani Goy, right? The Birchas HaShachar, Shelo Yisani Goy, think of what the whole world worships and what the Jews worship. Just think about that. And you will say, Shelo Yisani Goy, that if God has not made me a Goy, you'll say it with more kavanah intent. It's really a very important idea. What they hold and what we hold to be important. Anyway.
One of the newspaper commentators, columnists, did write a thing with making such a saint out of her, and there were so many other people, so many other women in the same generation who are deserved and not being given these accolades. Even the fact that she was praised as a mother, they say that her children are very shy and quiet, and they say, and she went ahead and made such a spectacle of what she was doing with a mother to the
Exactly. Of course, because the whole thing is lies. Ultimately, it's all lies. Lies and distortions. Exactly. What kind of kids think of her? When her exploits are all the time covered in the press and so on and so forth, with photographs by the paparazzi. Anyway,
They collected $150 million in her name.
Yeah. That's a schus you should know. She's very lucky for that. She's zoicha. I mean, that in her schus, like l'she'ilu nishmas. In that sense, it is. She's lucky. The Baruch Shem has Rahmanasan and so on. But for us, it's a lesson, the difference between Judaism and other civilizations.
One guy really came on and said that, Charles, I don't know who's worse, him or her. She says, and he went out and admitted that he had an adulterous affair with a married woman.
Yeah.
This guy didn't think about that. this woman's children are how they're going to be affected, or how his children are going to be affected.
It's not that. How does he do that to another man?
Yeah.
He destroyed the man's
Okay,
life.
another man, but how about the children? Man, he can find another one. The kids are going to ruin their life for the
Because they're all low lives.
and he's the future king. But that's with the true blood he has in him, not married into it.
Because they're not normal. They're not normal people, really. How can you be normal in a castle, that kind of upbringing, the way they are, rigidness, that's not a human being. Yeah, it's not a normal thing. Elizabeth is trying to preserve the generations of the old, British monarchy. Hey, it's 1997. It's a different time. A king, you know what a real king is? A king is somebody who has to be aloof, because that's the concept of Malchus. You have to be much more with the people. Imagine the second time in history that she spoke to the British people. What, is this normal? The second time in history? They're supposed to be her subject, and this is the second time in history that she speaks to the British people. Well, the second time in history.
She's only the second
She's
time
a
she's
queen?
been
What is she a
sober.
queen of?
Took her 30 years to get sober.
No, that's a tape. But that she should spontaneous speak to her subjects? It's unheard of. Even the Pope speaks to people live.
No, she speaks once a year in Parliament.
In Parliament, but not to the British
No,
people.
not to the people.
This was powerful year? No. I tell you, it's a bizarre civilization. If you really think of it and look at it honestly, you really just laugh at the whole, what they regard as beauty and valuable and so on. Anyway,
Next.
she's dead. Let's get on. I began a topic 2 weeks ago, which in many ways is a very profound topic. The topic was the concept of, we know, and I'll just move that up to, we know that the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world. We know that. We also know that what he wants, right, the reason why he created the universe was to create a human being and to give this human being an infinite state of goodness. We know that also, right? That's the purpose of creation. We also know that at that point in time, God had to make a choice. What was the choice? Would he give this infinite state of goodness? Now, we also know what that infinite state of goodness is, which is the experiencing of God himself. That's the infinite state of goodness, that we would experience the Rebbeinu Shalom himself as much as we can experience that, and so on, because it's limited to the fact that we are created entities. But we know that also. We know what the nature, more or less, is of this incredible state of existence. However, we know also that at this point in time, the Rebbeinu Shalom, God had to make a decision. Is he going to give this to mankind for free, or is he going to make them do something to get it? That's a decision he had to make. What's the repercussions of that decision? Awesome. The repercussions are awesome. If the Rebbeinu Shalom makes what, gives it for free, then he would create Olam Haba, the future world in which a human being would experience the Rebbeinu Shalom directly, as much as he can, immediately. There is no wait, and the place of existence is Olam Haba. In other words, God would create Olam Haba now. Nothing to work. There's nothing to do. Therefore, the Hatova, which means the goodness, that the Rebbeinu, that God would give to the human being, or the Jew, whatever, right, would be chesed, a pure act of kindness. And what is a pure act of kindness? It's when you give something to somebody with no conditions attached, for no reason. It is the will of the giver to give the gift to the receiver. Finished. The reason for the giving of the gift is it is the will of the receiver. There is no other reason. It's not connected to the receiver's actions, speech. He doesn't have to do anything, nothing. He just had to be there, and God gives him it all. That is pure chesed. That's what it's called. Pure chesed. Therefore, Olam Haba would have been a place immediately created, and God would have given this gift himself, so to speak, in pure chesed. That's one. If that would have been, there would be no Olam Hazeh. This world would never existed. Not only that, you wouldn't have to work. There would be no suffering, no disease, no death, right? No, what do you call it? Terrible human conditions, no wars. I mean, all the terrible negative things of mankind's history wouldn't exist.
No hunger?
No hunger, nothing. Would be no such thing as any negative experience. No such thing. Which is awesome. I mean, think about it. It's just awesome. So that would have been one path. The second path, or the second side of the decision, choice, is the Hashem says you must do something to earn this. Therefore, the hatova, which I will give you, is not called a matana, a gift. It is called a schar, a reward. Because a reward is something that you receive when you do something. If not, it's a gift. If you got to do something, it's called reward. You have to expend an effort, then you get the reward. So, what would be the concept if it was schar? It would mean that you have to do something. Whatever God decides, you have to do a certain task, right? Therefore, the reward depends on the completion of the task. You do the task, you get the reward. You don't do the task, you do not get the reward. It's that simple. That's what it is. That's a condition.
You get punished too.
What was that?
You get punished too.
Yeah. Yes. That system, there's clearly punishment. But the essential, I'm not focusing so much on the punishment. What it really is that your behavior determines the conduct of God towards you. That's really what it is. If you do good, you get good. If you do bad, you get punished. Who determines good or punishment? Man. Your behavior, right? That's what it is. So therefore, if God had decided that you had to do something for the reward, right? That concept is not called chesed, it is called din. What's din? Din means justice. What does justice mean? Justice doesn't only mean if you do bad, you get bad. You know, it's funny, I'm on jury duty.
Oh boy.
Together with,
No.
yes? I walked the door within the elevator. On the Supreme Court building, of all things, I was selected as a juror. Can you believe this? No, I never thought they would select me.
I'll teach you the play. I'll
They
get out
cannot
of
speak
it.
English.
And the worst part, I'm an alternate juror, so I don't even get to deliberate.
Yeah.
So at least if you get involved in jury duty, at least you get to say something, you know? But I find it fascinating, because to see how the justice system works. Anyway, what?
What justice?
What?
I was working with her.
Or whether, yeah. Aldo Bonsham, because I never saw this in real life. Aldo Bonsham said, I want you to see, it's important to see what Mishpat is by Umas Ha'olam, by the Goyim. And it's really, yeah, Shofim, that's right, you know?
Yeah.
Now, why do I bring this down? Because the judge is up front, and on the top of the wall, no, not in God we trust. No, in this one it was very interesting. It was a quote by Aristotle. You all heard of Aristotle?
Yeah.
Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived. I mean, the man was phenomenal. I mean, the Rambam said, if he wasn't a guy, he would have been a Navi. Aristotle. The Rambam says that. He was so great in intellect that had he been a Jew, he would have been a Navi. That's how, but he was a guy, so that's what. So
What do you mean?
this-
If you have a giant intellect and you're a Jew, you get Navi? Nebuah?
Yes, yeah.
Just intellect. You don't have
Well,
that shiur.
it's more than that, but he was just a super intelligent person. That man was brilliant. I mean, more than brilliant. He's anyway. So on there's a quote by Aristotle. It says there, "What is justice?" So I bring this down because that's the concept. He was right. Aristotle hit it right on the head. You know, he said, if I remember the quote correctly, I'll go back tomorrow and just check it out. You know, it says, "To give every man his due is justice." Right? Not bad. That's din. Whatever is due to him, that's justice. You know, it's a clear statement that it depends up to the guy, what he does. Whatever his due is. Right? D-U-E. Whatever he deserves. That's justice. You know? And so that's the concept of din. Aristotle was completely right, you know? So,
It
understood.
doesn't work so well today.
Well, because they don't give everybody his due, that's why.
Sometimes you do them, you shouldn't have something, you don't get what's the work.
So therefore, that's called din. Din means that in order to receive a certain kind of state, phenomena, or event, or whatever, you must do something for it. Depending on what you do, depends on what you get. That's the concept of justice. Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. That's absolute justice. If a person that, where do you see absolute justice in the Torah? Last week's parasha, 2 weeks ago, ayin tachas ayin, eye for an eye, the famous, right? Tooth for a tooth, you know, and so on. A foot for a foot, regel tachas regel, right? Even though we know, what does that mean? That doesn't mean literally a guy knocks out another guy's eye, you don't knock the guy out, right? So we interpret ayin as moment, right? In fact, you know what the remez is? Have you heard this remez? Ayin tachas ayin. How do you spell ayin? Ayin, Yud, Nun, right? So ayin, this ayin is tachas, is underneath what it really is. What's the letter after ayin?
Yud.
The letter after, after ayin.
Hey.
Hey. The letter after
Oh.
Yud, Chof.
Chof.
And the letter after Nun, Sama. So what do we got? Hey, Pei, Chof, Sama, Kesef. Kesef, money,
Very nice.
right? Ayin is tachas,
Yeah.
what the real ayin is.
Underneath.
Underneath.
Letters under.
Yeah, so therefore you have to go for the letters above it, right? What are the letters? Kesef. Beautiful remnants.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that's a remnant, that's an illusion that ayin tachas ayin means kesef, money, and so on. Why does it say ayin tachas ayin, or what? So if it's money, why is the eye for eye?
What is on top of Shem?
On top of what?
What?
Shem.
On top of
No, it starts off with ayin tachas ayin.
two. Okay.
We'll let you work that out. That'll be your chiddush.
Your code.
That's right. Why? So the question is, if the Torah says the ayin tachas ayin was ayin tachas ayin, din, justice. You took out his eye, your eye gets taken out. That's mamish. That's absolute justice, right? So if that's the case, right? So why does the Torah say mammon, money? Because really, what are you supposed to do? Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. The true compensation for damage is justice. What you did must be done to you. But the problem is what? Is you can't do it. Because what happens if the guy, the mazik, the guy who did the damage, has a 20/20 eyesight, and he knocked out the other guy's eye, and the other guy has a 70/80 eyesight? It's not the same. It's the bit you can't. You see, that's the problem. You cannot, right?
I have a better one. What if the guy has only one eye and he knocks
He got
out
out
one eye
here.
from this? You can go and make him blind totally.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So the truth is, you can't do true justice. This is the problem, right? So the Torah says, compensate him. You have to compensate him. You have to pay what's called not an eye, but an eye's worth. And then the Gemara is how do you estimate?
I have a chart. Eye is so much, leg is so much. I got a chart.
Yeah, that's right.
He uses it for his
But,
reputation, that's the whole thing.
No, but if you knocked out an eye of a rich man, you would pay more than if you knocked out the eye of a poor man.
Well, there's so many different factors in it, and so on.
Depends what he made for a living.
Anyway, so the concept of eye for eye is absolute justice. And that's the way the world runs, to the extent that it can. That's the concept called din. Now, din is absolute. What does din mean? It means if you did the job, you get the reward. If you didn't do the job, you get nothing, zero. Because that's what din is. Right? So that would have been the alternative. Either chesed, which means create olam haba now, or din, which means wait. Now, if you have to wait, then automatically, when is olam haba created? First of all, it's later, not now, because first has to come work, then reward. And the second thing is that if it's work, it's not the same world, olam haba. It's a different existence. So therefore, the decision, and we know that God decided that the world will run on din, not chesed, correct? Therefore, you cannot do that. Therefore, since it's run on din, therefore God decided that He has to make a different kind of world first, the world of work, avodah, and the second thing will be the world of reward, which is later, and there will be two different types of world. So therefore, there will be two worlds, two different types, two different times. That's the decision of din, justice. Besides everything you see around you, which means you have to go to work, and it's a difficult life, right? And there's all kinds of misery and negatives and so on and so forth. That's all part of the concept of the decision to make people work for their effort. This is what we know. Obviously, it is probably next to the decision. You asked me, what's the greatest decision, or the two greatest decisions God ever made that had the greatest consequences, right? What would you answer?
Creation.
I would say the desire to create is the greatest decision of all, right?
Yes.
And what was that? And this. The decision to create is the first great decision, and the second great decision is under is that there are conditions in which a person will get that hatava, because everything changed, everything. So we have to ask ourselves, why? Why did He do it? Why would God create a world in which we must work, instead of creating a universe in which we can do what? We can get right away. It's incredible. You think about the decision. It's awesome. Now, just before I go on this statement, do not think, however, that the world was created with absolute justice, because the world could never survive. What God did is He created a concept called mercy. In fact, in the beginning it says that in Chumash, that God saw that the world cannot survive through absolute justice, so He combined it, shitev. He combined it with Rahman. That's why in the beginning it says Elokim. In the first parak of Bereshis, it uses the word Vayom Elokim. Elokim means God as a judge, right? And in the second parak it says Vayom Hashem Elokim. It says Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Shem Havoyo, right? That indicates Rahman, mercy. Because He saw, and Rashi says this, He saw that Midas Hadin, the world cannot survive, because what would it mean? Imagine, a guy says, I want to do a sin. He does a sin. What happens next? Death. Instantly. Nothing. What does justice mean? Justice means what? Total reciprocity, total and immediate. Total and immediate response. Right? That's what justice really is. There's no, well, let's wait a while, let's give them a little, not a lot. There's no such thing as that by justice. Right? Where do you see absolute justice? You know where you see absolute justice? The laws of nature. A guy jumps off the roof. No, obviously, I'm not commenting on his mental state.
When he hits the floor.
No. What happens? Gravity. What happens? Straight down, right? Now, does gravity say, oh, yeah, I'm not sure, maybe. I'll bring him down a little at a time,
In its own way.
What?
In its own way. It still has a little bit rachamim, even gravity.
Yeah, what?
Because it will be the mass, the weight, and everything like that.
No, that's not that. That's the laws of gravity. No, the guy will immediately fall based on his weight.
You take a box and you throw it out, it's going to same goes the same way as if you throw a man. There's no difference.
Yeah, first what Galileo said against what you said, that all objects fall at the same speed, irregardless of their mass. That was proven by Galileo in 16-something, long time ago. Remember the Tower of Pisa?
Yeah.
That was a famous experiment. By the way, I told you I was on the Tower of Pisa.
Hey, you told
Boy, I was on the Tower of Pisa in Italy. There's a tower that leans.
Yeah.
The leaning Tower of Pisa. I was on it. It really leans. I mean, it really leans. I
couldn't
climbed
go
up.
there now.
Yeah, because I think it's over. But I was there in what was I in Italy? I was in Italy in 1983.
So it's 15 years, 14
Yeah,
years.
it's a long time ago. And then you could walk up. But you see how you walk up? You had to hold on to the... It's like you walked up like this, you know?
Drunk.
It's like, yeah, like you were drunk walking up, you know?
So,
You walked up like this.
Drunk,
It
you
was
walk straight.
like this. You couldn't go straight. You had to go up like this. And then you go around, you know what I'm saying? It was weird. You know, you couldn't stay... You didn't stay up there too long because like, it was weird, you know? Besides, you look down, you realize that you were leaning. I mean, you know... Anyways, it was interesting, you know? But anyway, Galileo solved that problem. Yes, famous thing he tried to solve.
So nature is pure justice.
Pure justice, exactly.
Touch
You
fire,
do,
you get burned.
bam, exactly. You touch fire, burnt. That's where you see true justice. Interesting. However, in the concept of how God responds to you, not nature, you don't see justice. People sin all day long. Nothing happens. Nothing. And we know, based on the reciprocity, if there was such a thing as absolute justice, the man would die immediately. Immediately. Total and immediate. But God saw that people are going to sin and they'll never survive. So he combined justice together with rachamim. What is rachamim? What is rachamim?
Din and chesed combined.
No, well, that's
Time to
translation.
wait for tshuva to come.
No. You always need a precise definition. Mercy. Who? No. Come on. Who can give me a precise definition of rachamim or mercy? Not a translation, a definition. What is it? Give me a statement that explains mercy. When a guy goes over to the guy says, Your Honor, you know, the guy says, we beg the court for mercy. What's he saying?
Time.
Oh, now
Put aside justice.
Don't give me what I'm really due.
Oh, put aside, saying the same thing. Rachamim is the suspension of justice. The chuyah. Dachuy, how do you say it? Suspended. The chuyah, the suspension. It is the suspension of justice. That's mercy. Is it chesed? Is rachamim the same as chesed?
No. There's a little thing in town.
Is rachamim chesed?
Rachamim.
When you say chesed v'racham, it's not the same.
It's not the same. But if you think about it, what's chesed? Chesed is to do something to a person and that person doesn't deserve it at all. Right? Doesn't deserve it. There's no reason why that person should get it. Right? That's chesed. Din is you get exactly what you did. Rachamim is you don't get exactly what you did because you're not getting it. Correct? It's a suspension of what you should get. You're not getting what you should get. That's called rachman. But the truth is, it is chesed b'din. Chesed b'din is rachman. Kindness in justice is mercy. In other words, in a world that has justice, what is kindness called? Mercy. That's what it is. Now, mercy doesn't say you don't deserve it. Correct? Does mercy say you don't deserve this? No. Does mercy say you won't get what you did? Does it say that? If a guy steals, right? Does mercy say if a guy steals? Does mercy say that a guy won't get what he deserves? Does mercy say that?
No, instead of getting 40 lashes, have mercy. Give him 20, give him 10. Reduce the amount.
No.
You said suspends it, so for later.
Who?
You said suspends it, so that means it holds till later.
Yes. Mercy does not remove din. It suspends it. You see what I'm saying? It changes din. It does not remove din. Very important distinction between the concept of mercy and the concept of chesed, which is kindness. Very different. Kindness does what? Kindness what? When God is kind, chesed. Remember what chesed was? God looks at a person and the will of God is what determines what God does. I want to give you goodness. It has nothing to do with you. It's my will. Justice is I want to give you goodness if you do something. Mercy says, right, that I want to give you goodness for a while. In other words, if a person does something and he deserves, mercy will say, don't do it now. In other words, mercy will say, change din, modify it, but don't remove it. What does that mean? Very important. That means, ultimately speaking,
You're gonna get it.
a person must receive everything he deserves. But not total and not immediate. You understand the difference? You understand the difference between mercy? Therefore, how could it be? So God will say, this person deserves 40 lashes, right? I will give him 20 now and 20 next year. But you gotta get, how much is 20? 40. That's the difference. Din says, give him 40 now. Mercy says, give him 40 in parts. Wait, forget shiur.
We have to be more merciful to give him the 41 shot. He doesn't think he's going to get it again.
I don't know about that, you know?
Get it over with.
No, it's always better to split it.
You're thinking you're remembering that pain when it's coming?
Because then the pain is lighter, because if you get 20 now and 20 later, it's only 20. You got 40, but it's still only 20 and 20, it's easier to bear. So mercy says that. What's another word mercy says? Mercy says, harm the person. Means the person has to suffer physically. His body. Din says. The guy did something, ayin tachasayin, eye for eye. Right? That's din. Mercy says, well, not eye for eye, give him a bruise on his foot. You know what I'm saying? So, or don't do it to his, don't do it to his person, do it to his possessions. His dog got killed, so he grieved. That's mercy. It was easier. You see? So mercy can change a decree from the physical person to the possessions, and so on. That's why there's a famous story where there's some Tana. So he always asked Elio, I want to go with you. Come on, brings the story down. You know, I want to go with you. You know? So Elio always said no. One time he said okay. So he went with him, but Elio says, if you ask me why I do things, no more. You go right home. You know? Anyway, Elio did several things. One of the things he did is that they came to the, Eliyahu disguised himself, and he was walking with this Tana. I mean, this Gemara brings this down. This isn't the Bobameister. When it's Gemara said, so they came to a certain place, and they came to this guy's house, and the guy was mamish. He's a tzaddik. He was a tzaddik, and his wife was a tzaddikist, and they took him on. The hospitality was tremendous. It was gewaldig, what the guy did and so on. So the last night they were leaving. He hears Eliyahu praying to God that the man's cow, the guy earned his livelihood from his cow. He earned his life from his cow. So or whatever it was, he either carried stuff for other people, whatever, milked it, whatever it was, So Eliyahu prayed that the guy's cow should die. The guy's cow died. I mean, imagine the misery. So they left. The guy was breaking at the seams. I mean, what's going on here, Meanwhile, they come to another guy's house. You know what I'm saying? Other guy's house and so on and so forth. And Eliyahu prayed, and this guy was a rotten guy. I mean, real Russia and so on and so forth. So Eliyahu prayed that he should find the treasure. I mean, it was like, whatever you expect. So finally, the guy couldn't hold himself out. He said to Eliyahu, I can't hold on anymore. I know that you're going to tell me this is the end of your trip, right? But I have to know. What'd you do this for? He said, it's okay. You know it's the end of the trip? Now I'll explain. The guy that I prayed should find the treasure, he was an evil person. The truth is, he is not deserving of Olam Haba, really, of the full extent. Therefore, I prayed that he should get part of his reward here, because he's so evil. Let him enjoy some of the reward here, so he won't get so much in Olam Haba. The guy was a tzaddik. There was a decree upon him, because he once did something many, many years ago. There was a terrible decree of punishment that mercy was holding up, So I prayed that it should be fulfilled with the death of the cow. So even though it was fulfilled, but had I not done it that way, then he would have died. However, that's what Eliyahu explained to him. He said, but since he asked me, trip's over, and so on. We don't know the cheshbonis, whatever it is, but I brought that out. I'll give you an example of Rachmanis, that sometimes possessions get damaged, not the person. Because if you ask a guy, what would you rather have? You should be in surgery, or your dog should be in surgery? Even though you can be, your pet lover and so on, dogs should be in surgery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people prefer themselves. Especially if you talk to some dog lovers. Anyway, but that's the concept of mercy. So what mercy is chesed b'din. Chesed b'din. When there is kindness in justice, that's called mercy. The definition of mercy is the suspension of justice. But mercy never removes justice, it merely modifies it. It changes it, makes it easier. But the person still has to go through what he has to go through. Why? Because the absolute law in the universe is justice. Mercy enables us to survive. That's why there's mercy. But the real, and that answers the question, well, if God created the universe with mercy and justice, and therefore in the second parak of Bereshis, it says, Hashem Elokim, the two names of God, the name that stands for mercy, and the name that stands for justice, so why didn't it say in the first parak? Because anyway, he changed his mind, so to speak. And the answer is because God never changed his mind. The world runs through justice, but God added mercy to temper it, to modify it. But ultimately, what has to be fulfilled? Justice. So therefore, the name of God, the first parak of Bereshis, is Elokim, judge. Now, so we see very important ideas. We see the idea that the world is absolute just with an introduction of mercy. And we see also that this decision profoundly changed the entire experiment with man. Right? That's what we see. So the question is why? Why did God do this? Now, the answer to this question is an answer which I have mentioned. The answer to this question, right, as I mentioned last time, has another question on the answer. That question, however, has no answer. At least, I mentioned then. It has no answer in the sense that I've never seen an answer. However, I have an attempted answer. I have an answer to it. I mean, this is what I see and so on. So I'm going to, of course, explain the answer to this question. And then we will go, of course, on the question to the answer. And then the answer to that question. What is the answer? The answer is a certain concept called Nahama de Kisufa, bread of shame. The bread of shame. Remember that? Bread of shame? What is bread of shame? Bread of shame is simple. It simply means that if you walk over to a person and you give him bread for free, he will be ashamed or embarrassed. Why? Because he's receiving something he did not earn. He didn't earn it. Why will he be embarrassed? Because receiving the bread without working for it in some way diminishes a person. You know, there are many people. You take a guy and you give him welfare checks for years, right? What can this man feel about himself? He's ashamed of himself. He can't even, I mean, his wife will tell him, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You can't even go out and earn a living. Right? She even used the expression, you should be ashamed of yourself. Correct? Why? Why is he ashamed? Because it's a reflection on him in some way. Nahama de Kisufa is the term used. Bread of shame. In other words, when a person receives that which they never earned, constantly, there is a certain... Therefore, the reason why God gave, or rather why God did not give the gift, rather he made it a reward. The reason why God makes you work for the goodness and doesn't give it to you for free is because he doesn't want to embarrass you. Because if you would sit there in the future world, Noam Habo, right, and receive the constant goodness, after a while you will experience terrible embarrassment, terrible shame, because you're receiving. So therefore, that would be an obstacle to your receiving the good. It's true you're getting a lot of good, but you're also ashamed at the same time. What kind of an experience is that? Clearly it would be a flawed experience, right? It's a flawed experience. You know what it's like? It's like a guy gives you, what do you guys like to eat? What's the favorite, right? Steak? Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. Steak, right? It's like you sit down with a steak, sizzling steak, right? That steak is real good, right? It's sizzling, you like it right, grilled.
I'm hungry now.
A sizzling, delicious steak. Prime ribs with fried onions, right? Right? Fabulous, right? And the smell you can...
Oh, you smell it.
Oh, he's came from Lebanon, right? What did they say? Just plus, right? And you take your fork and you cut the knife and you take the juicy steak. It's mouth-watering, soft.
I'm getting
right?
hungry.
Take it, I'll take it.
I'm getting hungry.
You put the fork in it and you put it in your mouth, right? And like, just doing that is incredible, right? And you bite into it, right? And then chew it and feel the aroma. And you bite into it and all of a sudden you have an incredible toothache.
Oh boy.
That's head. Right? So you don't know what to do. You want to eat the steak because it's delicious, but every time you take a bite into it, what happens? Oy vey's mir, right? So it's a conflict. You don't know what to do. What do you have? It's a conflict. Delicious steak, and you can eat it, and you're eating it. But every bite you take, oy vey, right? Pains. Now, I'm going to say something. Isn't that called a terrible damper? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Terrible, right? Terrible, right? That's the same thing with Nahama de Kisufa. You're in the Habo, and you're getting this incredible good. You're experiencing God, unbelievable, and it's doing things for you which we cannot even imagine, right? So you're receiving this incredible good. At the same time you're receiving incredible good, you feel incredibly ashamed. Now I ask you, you know what I'm saying? You can't do this. This isn't Oidam Habo. Therefore, Nahama de Kisufa, bread of shame, is a tremendous obstacle in receiving what is called hatova shlema, the perfect good. Perfect good, remember, what does God want to do? He wants to give you the perfect good, correct? What is perfect good? It has to be completely good. God cannot give you a steak with a toothache at the same time. That's not perfect good, right? God cannot give you himself and you experience Nahama and Kisufa at the same time. There's a deficiency in the good. It's not shlema. It's not perfect. And since God is a perfect being, the good that he wants to give you is perfect. To receive reward without doing anything at all. Just through chesed, because he wants to do it, God wants to do it, would immediately put you in a state of embarrassment, and therefore you would experience the hatova and the embarrassment at the same time. This cannot be. This is not perfect. Therefore, in order to avoid that, God says you must earn your own good, which means you have to do something to get it. Therefore, now, when you're in Olam Haba, right? What's God doing for you? He's giving you the good, correct? Why are you receiving the good? Because you earned it. You earned it. If you had not earned it, would you get it? No. So who is responsible for the fact that you are receiving the good? Who? You are. Therefore you feel okay. When a person works, and because of his work he produces, he accomplishes, he achieves, correct? He feels fabulous. Feels great. The guy who went out and earned $1 million by hard work feels 1,000,000 times better than a guy who inherited $1 million. It's true. They both have $1 million. True. But there's a difference in the way they feel about that $1 million. They both can have pleasure. But one earned it, right? And therefore he feels incredible about himself. And he also has the $1 million. Two things. And the guy who didn't earn it, who inherited, feels he has $1 million, so he can derive the pleasure of $1 million. But how good can he feel about himself? Hey, he didn't do a thing. He has to prove to himself that he could have done it. And therefore, even though he's a millionaire, it's limited pleasure. Limited. It's really what it is. All those guys that inherited their wealth are different than the guys who made their wealth. Tremendous difference between the two. Therefore, God decided you must create your own wealth. Therefore, you will have earned it, and you will get it, and you will feel absolutely fabulous, and there will be what's called hatova shlema, which is the perfect or the complete, total good. Solved. Correct? And the situation is solved. What's wrong with inheriting? There's nothing wrong with inheriting, but the problem is, you know that there are many rich people that feel guilty about what they have. What they have is actually a problem. Because the fact that they receive this without working, right, does not, look, when a guy has $1 million, usually he feels much better than the next guy. He feels superior. They cannot feel superior even though they have $1 million. Why? Because they never earned it. It was an accident of birth. They're lucky. They were born to the guy who had it. It's true. You see, of course the guy can enjoy the $1 million. No question about that. But there's a component about the $1 million that he can never have. He made it. You look at those guys who made the million. It's different. The look on their face is different. Of course they can both enjoy the $1 million. But one can never feel the way the other guy. And you should know, the feeling of having made the million is a whole, you can't buy that feeling. Not even for $1 million.
When the lotto started big, there was I remember showing one black person, poor, wasn't poor, but the guy who won $5 million. And they advertised them on television. The kid said, he started to spend money like there's no tomorrow. 2 years later, he was broke.
$5 million in 2 years?
Spent it.
I saw special that they followed like a few of them.
Of those guys who won the lottery?
Guys, yeah.
Yeah, and?
You should know that most of them end up terrible. divorce and problems, and each one had a different
Okay.
problem.
You don't know if it's a
That,
blessing or a curse.
that it was a curse, not a blessing.
Yeah.
They had a special. They followed
That's
their life.
interesting. Whatever happened to these guys who won millions of dollars
Yeah.
from the lotto?
Yeah, they followed like 5 or 6 of them.
And out of the 5, all of them were.
5 out of the 6 were a disaster.
What was the
Brother
disaster?
was suing the brother. The kids were infighting in the family.
Because of the money.
Because the money brought them a lot of divorce.
Because the guy figured, wasn't he his wife satisfied? Got $500, he can
you
go
get
get
girlfriends left and right.
Sure,
Two
you know,
Each one was a different problem.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, most of them were going.
Until you go put it in the bank. Easy come, easy go.
But people who earn their money know how to keep it.
Yeah. Because they know the value of earning. They know how long it takes and what it takes. That's right, exactly. People who earn their money through real work, I would think, are almost always keep the money because they know the values of money, which means how much hard work it takes. People who do not earn their money squander it. That's really, I think, in many ways what you're saying. Nobody ever earned it. It was the lotto. So they never realized the value of the money, how long it takes and so on. And therefore, ultimately speaking, just different things happen to them and so on.
That's why so many smarter millionaires because their children.
Yes, yeah, it's true. Exactly.
Those children.
Yeah, yeah, which is very true. Not everybody gives their money to their kids. There was one guy, I forgot his name, I think he gave 95% of his money away to charity. He left his kids over a small amount of money. Rockefeller didn't give his kids the money?
When they were grown.
I mean, he didn't spoil them. Yeah, which obviously he could have, yeah. Or because they would never learn the value of money, and so on. But in any case, the important idea here is what? Is that Nam Kisufa, right, is what makes it demands that we work for our money. Because even though we're enjoying the pleasure of whatever God is going to give us, which is an experience of the divine, we will always have that feeling of tremendous amount of shame and so on. Now, it's very important also, which I commented also, but it's a very important concept. What is shame, really? Shame is an emotion not really understood by most people. There's a difference between shame, guilt. There are many different human emotions. Shame, however, and you will hear a startling idea, the most fundamental concept, or rather, the most fundamental damaging emotion is shame. Why? What is shame? Who knows? What is shame? That's guilt. You were here there 2 weeks ago, right? Anybody know? You guys forgot 2 weeks ago. No good. If you already forgot in 2 weeks, I can imagine you forgot 2 months. I say I got to give a test every 2 weeks. Shame is a very important emotion, and it's very profound. In fact, I'll tell you something interesting. The reason why there's a guy, John Bradshaw. Have you heard of John Bradshaw?
Yes.
Who? Yeah, anybody into the codependency, Alcoholics Anonymous, all the Drugs Anonymous, Al-Anon, and 12 steps. That's it, the 12 steps, right? You ever hear of John Bradshaw? Isn't he a football player?
Yes, I should know
That was Mama's by accident, I mean, I know nothing about football. Nothing.
You go tell your blessing.
That's like a piece of information that just somehow dangles in my mind that nobody can tell you,
Quarterback or running back?
I don't know. You want that too? I don't know. Shame is a very important emotion, and the truth is that shame is not discussed among psychologists. It's astounding. But there's a guy, John Bradshaw, who used to be a priest or a minister, whatever, and he himself was an alcoholic. You know, has tremendous. He started giving lectures about what's called addiction. Now there are many types of addiction. There's drug addiction, there's alcohol. There are many kinds of addictions. You know, a person could be addicted to what do you call it, homosexuality, sex is an addiction, gambling, eating,
Smoking.
drugs, smoking, you name it. Addiction is an incredible craving toward a certain object, and there are many things. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous, you have now all over the place. Not only AA alcoholics, you have the Al-Anon, which is the drug. There's the Overeaters Anonymous and Drugs Anonymous. And all the anonymouses have grown out of what's called the addiction movement. And this movement is called codependency. And Bradshaw gives different lectures. He's a very, very fascinating speaker, tremendous sense of humor, and so on. He dwells on the concept of shame, and he's right. But the interesting thing about it is that he does not understand the relationship between shame and religion or spirituality. And after this lecture, or this series I should say, you will understand the pureness of shame, of the concept of shame, why it is so critical. But the first thing you must understand is, shame is what? And I will tell you. Shame is an emotion which is experienced when a person's sense of vulnerability or weakness has been exposed, thereby indicating to him that he is less than what he thought. Let me say that again. Shame is an emotion experienced by an individual when his vulnerability or weaknesses have been exposed to himself or others, thereby awakening in him the idea of his inferiority. Everybody understand what I said?
You don't need anything.
I'll give an example.
Wait a minute, you need nothing. But you're dead. You have no titles, no this, no that.
No. You now listen carefully.
I think the biggest thing.
I gave an example. Remember I gave an example? Somebody's in a shower, taking a shower. Remember I gave it's a crude example, but it's perfect. Because it brings out shame is a critical emotion. And you will understand that shame is responsible for all mental disease. That's how incredible it is, right? All mental disease. Every person who has mental problems or emotional problems has deep-rooted shame, but they've repressed it. It's I'm telling you now stuff that is the premise of all mental illness. Yeah. Then I'm going to connect it to the fundamental structure of ruchnius, and you will understand why they're connected, and so on. First I have to deal with shame. Guy's taking a shower. Whatever, a woman, a guy, it doesn't make a difference. Somebody's taking a shower. Right? Somebody walks over, right, and pulls a shower curtain. What happens? Whoops. Right? Sees the person naked. Right? What does the person feel? Shame. Nothing else, right? Embarrassed. Embarrassment and shame is the same thing, basically. Embarrassed or shamed. Shamed. Why? It's a crude example, but it's powerful.
What's it to be ashamed about?
Okay. We're talking about the average person. Some people are above it. Maybe some people like to display their bodies. I don't know.
A bunch of humans. What's the problem? A body, a body. I don't understand.
What?
Male, female.
Only after the sin. Yeah.
It's a mental problem with that person that he's shamed.
Okay, why does the person feel ashamed?
He's been exposed.
He's been what's been exposed?
Something that's always covered.
It's true. It's true. It's true that things have been covered. But what has been exposed?
The
What's been
causing
exposed?
A private part.
No, there are people who shame take off their shirts. You ever see people go if they're in a gym? People it's not only the private part. Their shirts. They don't want to expose any part of them. They're ashamed, right? What does a shirt have to do, right? There are people who are ashamed at exposing anything of their body. It's not only a matter of the private parts or whatever. It's more than that. Because if you look at the human body, right? The human body is very weak. There's nothing great about it. It looks inferior. The human body looks inferior. You compare the human body, right, to the body of a bear, right?
Bear looks like an animal. I think incredible creation, but I think my body's an incredible creation.
Wait. Follow the reasoning, or you will miss the subtle idea. You have to get the idea. People are ashamed of their bodies, not because of private parts. No, they're ashamed of their bodies because the human body is a very weak, unaesthetic, vulnerable body. It's embarrassing. It tells you, imagine a multi-millionaire. Imagine a guy who's a multi-millionaire. If he is naked, can you imagine how embarrassed he is? And even though he's worth a multi-millionaire. Why? Because he wants to believe he's hoo-ha, right? Meanwhile, hey, what's this guy? What's the big deal, You understand the contrast? It's a graphic contrast, but very important. Because people are embarrassed about their bodies, because big deal. Now you take a guy who works out, right? These guys who work out on the gyms, what do these guys do?
Expose their body.
Exactly. Why? Because they have gorgeous bodies. Beautiful.
They have earned.
It's not in so much they've earned it, it's true, but even if they haven't earned it, the guy has a natural build, he likes to show it off. Why? Because it's beautiful. It's strong, muscular, strength, definition, muscle tone, etc. Right? Look at the difference. Because we are looking at the concept called vulnerability, weakness, inferiority. Shame is an emotion when you experience when you feel inferior. When your inferiority is obvious, you feel ashamed. Guy takes a test. Everybody in his class gets a 95. He gets a 50. Right? And they all get together. Correct? And they're all discussing their marks. Right? So, they're holding up the 95s, and this guy, he's got his paper. For obvious reason, he's not showing it, So one of the guys is, hey, John! Right? I'm using Goyish names, right? Hey, John, come on, what'd you get? What do you think John's going to do? John's looking around for the nearest hole to crawl into. Correct?
Or lie about it.
No, let's say they want to see his paper. Right? What is John feeling? Shame, right? It's a shame. What's he ashamed about? His inferiority. Is he ashamed about his 50? No. He's ashamed because a 50 means you got to be a dope, because everybody got a 95. You see, an intellectual deficit is what he's ashamed about. He's inferior. You see, again, the same concept. When your inferiority is exposed, you are ashamed. Shame is a very unique emotion, very important. It is the exposure of the person's inferiority, and he feels shame. That's what a person does. And there are many other examples you can give, all kinds of examples. And you'll always see that when a person's inferiority, whether it be mental, intellectual, right, or physical, or performance, you know what I'm saying? If a guy performs, you know what I'm saying? If two people are performing, and one guy does a poor job, he's ashamed. Because performance is a reflection on his worth, on his greatness, on his being. See who I am? That's what it is. Performance is a statement that you're nothing. You're not what you think you are, you're nobody. Or you're inferior. Shame is the reflection, is the emotion we experience when we feel inferior, when we have no self-worth, when our self-esteem has been damaged. It's all the same concept. Self-esteem, self-image, self-respect, self-worth. It's all the same idea. When that is damaged or exposed to be inferior or deficient, what do we experience? Shame. That's what shame really is. It's a critical, one of the most fundamental of all human emotions, is shame. Now, one of the ways we receive shame is how? Is being the recipient of something good. Why? When we receive something, you ever see guys on welfare? Now, forget about you. You can develop a welfare mentality, correct? A welfare mentality is after a while you just take the checks. But what do these guys really feel? They feel inferior. Why? Because a person feels inferior when it's proven that he cannot produce. What's the proof that he's inferior, that he can't produce? Because you're always receiving welfare checks. If you're such a hot shot, why can't you go to work and make money? Making money, working, is proof that I'm somebody. Receiving welfare checks is proof that I am nobody. Therefore, you're ashamed. Of course, the guy then drowns it out. I mean, he doesn't allow himself to experience the shame. So the shame becomes suppressed or repressed. True. But it doesn't make a difference. Deep down, he's ashamed of himself. To be in a recipiency stage for a long time is a terrible, shameful experience. Why? Because we receive our feelings of self-worth by being productive. Therefore, Nahama the Kisufa, the bread of shame, we now understand why it's called the bread of shame. It is called the bread of shame and because if God gives you this hatova, this goodness, constantly, what would you feel? Shame. Because the mere fact that you must receive this all the time makes you feel inferior, or it exposes your inferiority. You're being nothing. You're being nobody. Therefore, you have the feeling called shame, and you can't do that. It's like eating a steak with a toothache. You're getting great stuff. I mean, fabulous. But every time you pick up a check from God, so to speak, what do you feel with the check? With the act of taking the check that you did not earn, you feel shame, because receiving is proof that you're nothing and nobody. Because if you really were somebody, why don't you go out and get it yourself and do it for yourself? What do you got to take it from God for? This is the immediate kind of feeling that you have. Therefore, God, in order to avoid the concept of shame, gives you only on condition that you earn. You earn. It's me. Because if I didn't do what God wants me to do, if I didn't do the task, I could never get the reward. Correct? Therefore, the fact that I'm receiving the reward means I did the task. But if you did the task, how do you feel about yourself? Fabulous. A guy puts in a week's work, and he goes to pick up his check. Is he ashamed?
No.
Why? Exactly. A guy goes to a charity organization to pick up his check. Well, that's really what welfare is, charity. State charity, right? What does he feel? Ashamed. That's why a person must feel they earned something. Therefore, God said you can only receive Olam Haba, the future world, if you work, thereby removing an obstacle to the real feeling, to feeling totally what you're getting, and that's shame. That's the answer. Why God said, din, justice. You must earn the reward, then you get it. However, what's the question? This is the answer. Wait, because you answered it later. What is the question? What's the problem with this answer? This is the answer, by the way. This is the Hashkafa answer. Nahama Kisufa, bread of shame. I've explained to you what shame is in depth. That it's the concept of inferiority, right? of what shame is and so on. This is the answer. That's the answer in Hashkafa. However, there's a problem with this. Anybody know what the question on this is?
Yeah.
Come on, you guys forgot 2 weeks ago. Come on, I said this 2 weeks ago. You're excused. You were not here 2 weeks ago. You're safe. No, but you had something to think. No, but you're only safe because I didn't say it, so you're not responsible to remember it. But come on, what's the question? Or what's the...
2 weeks ago. I remember she said that.
Okay, repeat performance.
Why didn't Hashem create people, human beings, without this sense of shame?
And therefore he wouldn't have to correct it.
Correct.
Exactly. If God created the universe, right? He created it all. Who's the one who makes a person feel shame when his inferiority is exposed? God. Who made us? God did. Right? Humans didn't always exist. Correct? Therefore, when a human exists and he experiences shame, that's built into the creation. Of course, if a person feels shame when he receives something for nothing, right? God made it that way. That if you receive something for nothing, you are ashamed. So of course, if now a person has shame when he receives something for nothing, you got to correct it. So therefore, you got to make it work for it. But the question is, hey, don't break it. You don't have to fix it. When you create a person, don't give him the emotion called shame, right? Even if he experiences inferiority or whatever, or a person shouldn't care. And therefore, you don't have to make him work, and you give him the future world right away.
That would be better.
What?
That would be better.
Of course, it would be better. What's the biggest problem by then? What's the biggest problem when God created the world where you have to work for your future world? What's the real problem, the danger of this all? What's so bad about din? And the answer is risk. Because if you don't do it, what happens? Noidam haba. So it's a risk. Why would God create a world that is risk?
It always happens. Even if you are Rosh, he'll bring you back as a paraplegic, retarded person, you'll suffer all life, and he'll bring you back, oh, for goodness. You know, in a rabbi's family, you become a rabbi, you learn it. That's it. You won't remember the wicked that you did.
Again, the risk is the danger spot of the world that has din. It's risky. Because who says you're going to work for it? In fact, if you take a look outside the door, 95% of mankind are obviously they're going in the opposite direction than a Mabla. It's obviously that way. So they failed. Failure is the obvious possibility in a world that had either success or failure. So clearly din is worse than chesed, right? No question about that. So the question is, once God created a man, that if he receives something for nothing, he feels shame, so God has to deal with that. So he says, okay, work for your reward, and then you'll get it. You'll feel proud. You won't feel diminished because I give you the reward. But the question is, why did God make man that way? Why not make him without a feeling of shame, without a sense of inferiority? Therefore, a person would never feel shame, even if he received. So, therefore, you make a future world, he's always receiving, and there's no shame. This is an incredible kasha against the whole concept of Nahama and Kisufa. It's for... No, God does for creation what creation needs, right? But what makes creation need? God. So let him not make that need, and then he doesn't have to do it. You don't realize by giving a person a sense of shame, God had to create a whole world before the future world. But there's a tremendous risk. Why would God do that? It's much better to create the future world, and I'll get the reward immediately.
Yeah, but we know from
It's a tremendous risk. The Will Smith. Yeah, I'll repeat that again. But in any case, that's the question. The question simply is, that let God create the world or man without a feeling of shame. Therefore, if he creates the future world and he gives a man constantly, that man will not have shame. And therefore he will have incredible reward without the blocker of shame. That's what God should have done. Instead,
No, but
what
then he
God
doesn't
do,
feel like he earned it either.
Instead what God do, he created a man with a feeling that that he's able to, if he sees his inferiority, he will experience the emotion called shame. Now that a person has the emotion called shame, God has to solve the problem by making the man work for it so he doesn't receive it for nothing, so he can feel as if he earned it. But the reason why God has to make him work for it and create this world is to solve the problem of shame. So the question is, let not God not create a man with a sense of shame, and he can give him the future world right away, because then a man won't feel shame by receiving for eternity. This is the question. Understand the question?
Nothing you can do that can be so good, receiving for eternity. You'll be shamed anyway.
As far as I'm concerned, I've never seen an answer on this. Yeah, that's what it would seem so. However, next week I'm going to go into the concept of why the Rebbe created shame and how to solve the problem of shame by creating Olam Hazeh. Why didn't he just create an Odom, a man without shame, and he could have created Olam Habo? Next week we'll go into that. Very important, very profound understanding of what's going on so on.
You know the answer.
Yes.
It's not to look at the answer.
He was shamed with this one.
Wait.
And separation is us, the consciousness.
Yes,
Because
that
again,
would
we
be
are
us.
separate from Hashem.
With the Shama that shall meet in the Rosh.
And that very separateness makes the Nama de Kisufa.
Yes.
That very act of separating us
The Namak
makes
Sufa,
us the
exactly.
Nama de
So
Kisufa.
therefore that's the existential problem of the Bria.
Right there.
There's a
in the
muscle
beginning.
showing and then
So the string is a being that has Nama de Kisufa.
yes, that's right.
And it's the string's job to maneuver itself in such a way that it releases consciousness of itself and it becomes shalom again.
Yes.
Through its very act.
Yeah, that's right.
Through his very act.
Yeah. Because now it can be, now you could feel yourself as a sphera without Namak Sufa. Because you are responsible for feeling yourself as a sphera. That's the Namak Sufa there.
So if you could really successfully move the string, you've obviously found yourself.
If you could move the string, yeah.
You've found yourself, which is the job we're trying to do. We want to find ourselves.
Well, doesn't it say that the whole Bria is Tolim and Tzaddik?
So I want to start it. So what is that?
Kodesh Baruch Hu, Tzaddik Goizer, or Kodesh Mekayim?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's got the string.
Because he is it. Because the Rosh allows him to do what he can do. Is it the Rosh that's Mekayim, or the Rosh allows him to move the vibration?
And he makes it happen.
He makes it, yeah. Correct.
So what does it mean? Maybe it means that tzaddik is someone who knows how to use the string so he can do things.
Yes. Or he's the sole contact with his
himself.
that he can. He's a string,
Right.
so he can do it.
Just to do something.
How's a tzaddik able to do so? Maybe that's how.
Because he feels.
Because he does it ultimately.
Yeah.
See, that would be eminently elegant.
Yeah. If that would be the case.
Beautiful elegance, where you and the phenomena is the same. Not that there's a version that does things for you,
Right.
but really you do. So the version allows you to do it. And when you become tzaddik, which means you're part of a Motzei Shalom already.
Right.
That aspect of being Motzei Shalom, the version allows you to do it.
Because you've connected yourself with the string.
Correct.
You've gained that consciousness. And that's why the only way to be a tzaddik is to do the mitzvahs.
Yeah. That's why Shechina, Klai Yisrael is really the Shechina, the flip
Yeah.
side. That's what it means that Knesset Yisrael is really the Shekhinah.
Because we're the Matzah Shalom. We're God.
Do you see how everything...
V'tem kelokim. We are the Shekhinah.
Yeah, exactly. You see how everything... Look at this.
Yeah.
Astounding.
And Shekhinah is from the word Shochen, which means it's the Hashem part that Shochen's in us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not the Ein Sof
Yeah.
part of God.
So it comes out of Murdik Zachat in actuality.
Such beauty, I see.
Well, you see how everything
No,
is... Yeah.
look how we
Yeah,
took
amazing.
such ideas that no one even thinks of. Forget knows them, and we put them together
Correct.
in such unity.
Beautiful.
So it's like, even though I would think they're guessing it all,
This is nothing.
it has to be right. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Yeah. And this is nothing.
This is nothing compared to what we're going to
Wow.
know, you mean?
Yeah, there's nothing. This is the beginning of...
Yeah, we didn't get anywhere, you know.
So could you imagine that the Mashiach comes as Megalis? And none of that, he puts you in contact
With yourself.
Yes, also you realize you're a
Nothing to do.
stream. You're a stream.
Wow. And you're in charge of all matter.
Yes. That matter, not in charge. Matter emanates from you.
Yeah.
Much more than that. Can you imagine what an astounding idea that is?
But how could that be? I'm here. This table's not even touching me. How can I be making this table?
Well, that's the unknown part.
That's the unknown part. How
Well,
does
now
the
how
string
can you be
make?
localized? How are you localized?
Yeah.
Well, that's unknown because you know, it's because you're really a chelik of the string. Because all kinds sort of all together
Is the string.
is the whole thing.
Yeah, then one
You're
string.
only a bit
Yeah.
of the string.
So does that mean I can only affect parts of the world?
Yes, correct. That's clearly like that. You could only suck in parts of the world.
Meaning my part.
Your part.
That's why they say each Jew has his tikkun.
Correct.
Because each one has to do his part
That's
until
right.
the full string is done.
That's right.
So together we do it all.
Yes.
And if there's a Jew that doesn't do his job, somehow he goes out of tikkun and the string is given to someone else that they can do it.
Yeah.
Because someone's got to do it. It's like Esav. If you say no, I'll do it.
Yeah. That's right.
But does that apply today, that people lose their ability to mitakin because they're such rushes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then someone else got to do it.
No, it means that it would mean that chelik neshama comes back with a different consciousness. That this consciousness is lost, which is you.
So he tries to
So the Matzah Shalom would come out with another consciousness.
Also, still there's the even amount of parts.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. Exactly. Parts remain. Except the consciousness is very. That's right.
So really, Mr. A may leave, and it may be Mr. B now, but he's the same.
He's the same chelik neshama.
Chelik.
Same kav. Somehow the Moshe can alter the consciousness.
So really, A did die and became new, but it
In that
is the same
sense, yes.
guy.
It's the same but different.
So it's like Mr. A who sinned won't get all Nahama because he's not around it.
But look how much you regenerate.
Yeah.
But you see that, but you can realize that because of Ramchal's Matzah Shalom.
Yeah, it's very important that I learned.
Yeah. Because without that,
See how day one when I came here and you said it's going to be priceless information that I'm giving you. I only took it on faith. But I knew it was going to do. I knew it's going to
well,
lead
you
to
entered
something,
two
you know.
worlds.
I knew it's
You
going to
entered,
lead to
yeah.
something.
Well, you entered the world of Teres
And the halachas.
and Hashkaf. Now you understand why is structure so important? Because that is the relationship of the Bria.
Yeah.
It's all Teres.
Right, what everything comes from. Formulas, it's like mathematical formulas. You need to know what comes from what. Not just there's something here, there's something here, halacha here, halacha here.
That's why it says Ad Mosai Uschova Shvi. You said
What does it say?
Yatso.
Oh, right. We bring the Tiferet back to us, not from the other side.
The Teres in the hands of the enemy.
Right, which is
It's not
science.
Yatso, enemy, and
Which
they
is-
use the Teres against us.
Right.
That's science. That they want to say there is no God.
Right.
They use Teres. But the truth is, why is Teres such an important part? Because Teres is really Yichud. And the whole Bria is really Yichud.
Who was God take? It's all Yichud, what is it? Gilui Yehudo.
Yes.
Hester Yehudo, then Gilui Yehudo. Where are we? On the clock.
25 April.
Oh, we got time?
Yeah. 25 April.
Oh. Usually time goes fast when you're having fun.
It's an hour and a half, right?
All I have to do is somehow get time to slow down. What do I do within myself to speed up so that I can slow time down and we'll learn more? Soon there's going to be a way. And we're going to learn here for 10 hours, and you may not know it.
But you see anyway how everything is connected in the end.
Yeah, beautiful. You know how many times I'm going to have to listen to this over and over before I really grasp it?
Does this come out okay?
Excellent.
Yeah. Anyway, so the important thing is that what we've seen, we've talked about the fundamental structure of Bria. What our problem is that we do not have the details. You know what I'm saying? But it lies in the area of, you know what I'm saying? The details and so on. But the whole concept of Montei Sholem, perfect being, that we are perfect being, the Nahama Kisufa, and that's really the concept of Kav, the 613 parts, the spheres and so on. All these ideas. We've talked about the fundamental elements of creation, and how creation really comes from us. You know what I'm saying?
We make it.
Yeah. That's why it says, Mi b'sorai ex-elokim, in Tehillim. From my flesh, I can see God.
What does that mean?
David HaMelech says that in Tehillim.
Yes.
Umi b'sorai, from myself, I can see God. Because I am a model of the Rebbeinu Shalom.
So meaning if I look at myself,
We are the
I
spheres.
see God.
Yes, yes. Because we are really the spheres. So we study ourselves, we are a carbon copy of the spheres. That's why we have 613 parts. Same
Yeah,
idea.
they say Ramach Evarenu
And the Shisa Giddim. The exact same concept. Because, you see, you know what I'm saying?
Because we are it. We are
Correct.
the 613.
Yes, right. That's right.
Even from Mibisarai, even if you look at your physical body, it's enough to see.
Yes.
Imagine the neshama part. You'll really see.
Yeah. And that's what V'shochanti b'soicham means.
Oh, Hashem is within us.
Oh, the or ain't so.
Is within us.
Exactly.
Or no, we are in the Or Ein Sof.
You hear?
V'shachanti b'tocham.
Who's within us?
God.
God. Literally. But it's a very important idea.
And that's why it says you need to do the mitzvot in order to make yourself a Beit HaMikdash.
Yes.
Because the
Nahama
mitzvot,
Kisufa.
the mitzvot will bring you to have
Yes,
God.
and that's the real concept, that there are different models of the Bria. There are different models of the Bria. One is man. The body of man is the Bria. Now you understand, because we are the spheres.
Right.
And the spheres themselves are called Mara Odom,
Right. Come on.
Dimyan Odom. Sure, right? And that's also why, so that's why it's like, from my flesh I can see God,